One thing with the pews, I have to say, I'm going to release the raw footage so everybody could see every pew. I think that's only fair because the West, although Reggie made the argument a while ago about West, I see why the church says it's West African Arabic because it does look like that script, but looking like don't make it. That's what it is. But hey, who am I? I'm just saying.
Garfield, what does the consensus say about that script? What does it say
about what the script on the
pews? On the pews, yes.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there's really a consensus. I think everybody that looks at it is because what we do is we look at it from our perspective, from the people that's made the claims.
Now, this is where you got me confused, Garfield. Because I thought you were saying, I thought you said on another channel that the documentary showed and proved that our people weren't illiterate when they came over, i.e., they could write.
Yeah. Of course.
Okay.
What's that?
So is that the scholarly consensus of the pews that it demonstrates that we can write or no?
I wouldn't know. I would have to know how many scholars.
Okay.
No, for real. I would have to know how many scholars to jump up and say the scholarly consensus. I'm not doing that with that. I don't know. You see, for the white folks at the University of Cincinnati,
I respect that. That's real smart.
Garfield, you always appeal to that method.
Yes, I
do. Now you don't know.
I don't know if there's a consensus on the pews because
man.
Remember, hold on. That's an inside joke. But remember, the gentleman is basically saying University of Cincinnati is buying it for a reason, and it's been argued about by many people. We need to look at the consensus of all the people that have reviewed it, then draw a conclusion on what the consensus is. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know what the consensus is. You know.
I myself have written articles, and in my new book on the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, I do mention also the strong ties between ancient Israel and Ethiopia. The Ethiopian church, unlike all other churches, it still adheres to the ancient Hebrew tradition. Historically, we know a large number of Africans were brought from West Africa as slaves. But we now also know that there were many Africans who were brought from the east side.
The year is 1859. A church has just been erected in Savannah, Georgia. Up in the balcony, there are many markings and symbols on the pews.
William Hodgson went around recording Africans writing in these Afro-Asiatic languages. Europeans had said that Africans had no civilization, but because now he was showing that in fact these Africans had civilization by writing, he said that he was no longer allowed to have contact with them. He was not becoming basically an asset for the abolitionists, but the folks who even lived with him in Savannah, so that it was going against their best interests.
There is now evidence to clearly show that some of the slaves came with skills of writing, which transcends the traditional models of illiteracy, albeit most were illiterate. In fact, most people from Europe and the West were illiterate in that time.
We tend to identify Jews with Europe, but actually the Jewish ties with Africa is much more fundamental, much more well known.
One thing we know for sure, they had brought the worship. There was the liturgical life of the church that was introduced even before the scripture themselves.
Historically, we know a large number of Africans were brought from West Africa as slaves. But we now also know that there were many Africans who were brought from the east side. We mentioned before Zanzibar, and even from Ethiopia. If you go to northern Ethiopia, you see that a large number of people say our ancestors, even the Christians, they say our ancestors were Jews. Ethiopia is a big country with 90 million people today. According to the recent census, 70% of the people are Christian and 25% Muslim, and then the 5% Jews and Hindus and others. However, even the large number of the people of the north believe they descend from the Jews. We tend to identify Jews with Europe, but actually the Jewish ties with Africa is much more fundamental, much more well known. I myself have written articles, and in my new book on the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, I do mention also the strong ties between ancient Israel and Ethiopia. We talk about the fact that the Ethiopian church, unlike all other churches, it still adheres to the ancient Hebrew tradition: circumcision, separation of clean and unclean foods, cleanliness. Even the churches are built like the temple. Ethiopia, not only preserved some lost Jewish literary works, but it also preserved the old Jewish tradition. Raymond Moni, the French scholar, has written a book in which, in fact, he talks about like Jewish settlements in Ghana. In those days, as you know, in North Africa and Spain, Jews and Muslims were in many ways very close. Sometimes there was conflict, but most of the time, even the Kingdom of North Africa and Spain, there was what we call the golden age of Islam. There was a lot of collaboration between Jews and Muslims. But in any case, the existence of Jews in Ghana is already well documented. Oh, now that looks like a sheen, a Hebrew sheen.
Well, this one here.
The first one.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
First African Baptist Church was originally called Ethiopian Church of Jesus Christ. Ethiopians caught in the slave trade traveled down to Angola and ended up in America. Did they bring their ancient Judeo-Christian traditions along with their Afro-Asiatic writing scripts?
Ethiopic and Hebrew both originate from the same Proto-Semitic alphabet, and in shape and in form, many of them look alike. Ha, Sa, Ra, Ri.
So all these letters are Ethiopic.
Yeah, that would be Ethiopic. Yeah.
Okay.
This is Ha, this is Sa.
Yeah.
And this could be Na if it was straight like this.
There is now evidence to clearly show that some of the slaves came with skills of writing, which transcends the traditional models of illiteracy, albeit most were illiterate. In fact, most people from Europe and the West were illiterate in that time. What we have observed with the Ha-Sa, following very often those two Ethiopic letters, are the two small lines. Those two small lines are symbolic of the abbreviation for the name of the Most High, Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh.
Of course, yeah, the tetragrammaton sometimes is shortened as Ya and or Yo. Of course, the letter Yod also in many Jewish interpretations often represented the Ten Commandments also. So, so Yota has a symbolism of the weight of the law.
Seeing that we have the Ha-Sa symbols on the pews in Savannah, Georgia, followed by this abbreviated symbol for the tetragrammaton of the name of the Israelite deity Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, is in itself remarkable in the sense that this has to be the writing of an ancient heritage that managed to somehow survive chattel slavery and persist with a record of a connection of a scattered people from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia.
All right, y'all heard that. Y'all heard that right there. More I don't know if we need to give him a little bit more time. Garfield, you're not saying nothing. I'm not even bringing nobody else up. Garfield, you're not saying nothing. Moore got this floor.
Hey, what are we doing now? What are we doing?
Moore getting ready to Moore getting ready to go.
How long are we doing this though?
Moore got 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Yeah,
yeah, he got 10. He got 10. No, he going in for about 10 and then because I want him to go straight into the questioning you, cross-examining you. I don't want him to go straight. Are you offended?
Nah, I'm good, bro. I'm in good spirits, man. I'm saying amen to everything. The Holy Spirit is good.
Holy Spirit at work. Garfield, you need to go in the back or you're going to be okay. I hope the Spirit can hold your peace. You're going to hold your peace, right? Because a lot of people saying if you don't hem Garfield up right there on the spot, they said you was doing a lot of stuff. They saying they heard some Brooklyn magic. Moore, you need a couple of more minutes for them people, everybody back in their seats. No chewing gum in the sanctuary. Go ahead, Moore. You got the floor.
Go ahead, Moore. Tell old Pharaoh Garfield, let our people go.
Oh, man, I can't make this up. Do Moore know he muted? Or he need more time? Type of one if you need more time.
Did Moore step away?
I don't know. I thought I just heard him. I don't know. He may be talking. I hope you're not talking. You know we can't hear you, right, Moore? All right. Maybe he hold on. While she's doing that, then let me.
All right, I'm back.
Okay. I'll mute myself. I'm stepping away for a second, Dunamis, but I can hear everything.
All right, Dunamis, I'm gonna need you to share a screen for me right quick, sir. And like I said before, family, Garfield.
No, let me do that right. I'm sorry. Let me do that right now. Watch it. So, if Dunamis not by his desk, let me pull up your thing right now because I got to step away.
Yeah, I'm by the computer right.
Okay, so you could. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Wait till it all comes up. Sorry about this. I got a million things open on my joint. So, like I said in the opening film, y'all gotta forgive Garfield. He is not a bad person. He just plays one on TV. You know what I'm saying? With that said, I appreciate it for having the dialogue, etc. And we're gonna go back over a lot of stuff that he brought up and go over some of the sources and whatnot. And again, I shout out for recognizing that I do study what you do. And every source of yours that I put up, bro, that's something that you put up in public. That's nothing I took from you. Something you put up in public. You know what I'm saying? So just to be clear. But with that being said, let's go through some of this. One, I did not quote Idrisi from the problem of the Judaized Berbers. I quoted Valentin Fernandez about gold jewels among the Wolof, Mandinka, and the Fulani. I made no Berber Jew claim. That's a straw man fallacy. First fallacy. First fallacious argument. So again, going back to that text or whatnot, what I brought out had to do with the fact that there was a group of Jews that were amongst three different distinct ethnic groups: the Fulani, the Mandinka, and the Wolof. I made no claim about Berber Jews. So anything that you said about Idrisi and about Berber Jews, it doesn't apply because I didn't even talk about Idrisi from that text. I cited Idrisi from a whole nother text, talking about a whole nother thing. Again, not even talking about Berber Jews. I was talking about a town in Mauritania, Senegal. Going further, the name of the town, like talking about the B'nai Israel and the Wolof people, etc., whatnot. The source that I brought up, again, I'm gonna go to it in just a second. I'm gonna go through all these sources in just a second. But I'm just running these through to be clear so everyone understands what's going on here. The name of the town and community of the B'nai Israel, like the town, right? The community of the town was named after a dream, not the people. The source says the town, not the people. The source says they were a thriving Jewish community. He didn't say anything about that, didn't touch that in any way, shape, or form. It's a fallacy of omission. Second fallacious argument. Third fallacious argument. Omar ibn Said spoke and wrote an autobiography. He spoke and wrote an autobiography. Oh, hold on. I wrote something here. He wrote an autobiography in Arabic. And he never mentions Luso-Africans or learning Hebrew from Jewish merchants. Again, like he wrote a whole autobiography. This is one of the few slave stories that we have of people writing their own story in their own hand or whatnot, right? In Arabic, right? And some can even argue with Judeo-Arabic, and I'll point to that in just a second or whatnot, right? But he writes it in his own hand, and there's no mention whatsoever of him learning Hebrew from a Jewish merchant or having anything to do with Luso-Africans, anything whatsoever. That's nowhere in any of his writings. And if you want to produce such, you can. Like, I'd love to see it, but I got his writings. I don't know it's not there. And so that's an argument from silence, right? Another fallacy, like, again, that's you're reaching at that juncture. That's a third fallacious argument. Fourth, the Billy Simon scholar, again, you said he is the top scholar on Billy Simons, the guy that you were emailing back and forth. He said that the lemma DNA is worth another look, basically, right? And again, Madagascar is not in North Africa. He's not from North Africa. Again, his lineage is obviously unknown, right? But again, the guy you contacted said no, the lemma DNA is worth another look in this situation, right? And again, Madagascar has nothing to do with North Africa, right? None whatsoever. Again, you showed that email publicly. Again, that's a red herring fallacy. The Ghana Empire was in the Western Sahel. This is something he brought up again. He consistently talks about Ghana like the Ghana Empire is in the modern place where Ghana is. That's not the case, right? The Ghana Empire was in the Western Sahel, Mali and Burkina Faso, etc. Not the modern day state of Ghana, the country of Ghana. It's a false dichotomy fallacy. Again, fourth fallacious argument. Again, this is something I can't wait to get into, right? I'm about to get into this in just a second, right? But he keeps talking about this. Well, no one practiced like you practice. I brought this up earlier. No one's talking about this concept of Jesus like you're talking about, etc. And something he refuses to recognize. And he should be aware about it because his man Rob Warren did a whole presentation about them, right? Is the Moorish Zionist Temple. This was again, this is the first African Jewish congregation in North America. Whatnot. They started in the late 1890s. This was before any of the One West stuff. They recognized Old Testament Judaism and Messianic practices for members that were so inclined, like Romanian Judaism does. This is a form of Judaism that my man Rue can come on and explain a lot clearer, whatnot. But for like a short understanding of what it is, it's like first century Judaism. So we're like the Bible says, there's Jews and there's Gentiles, right? There's people that believe in the Messiah, but they're going to come about it a different way. You know what I'm saying? There's some people who are going to do some Jewish traditions, and there's some people who are going to do something like you're going to see later when I read it. Like they're okay with people keeping Baptist traditions and even eating pork if they want to. Again, that's an argument from ignorance. So I'm not even mad at him unless he's really familiar with that presentation that Rob Warren did. But I'm going to go into the information even more so. And another concept on they didn't believe how you believe. The B'nai Israel, again, over in Africa, right? They're Jews that are Islamic. That means that they believe in Jesus as the Messiah too. Now he can reject that and be like, oh, well, that's not the same as Christianity. Fam, they still believe in the Messiah. And again, Omar ibn Said is an example of somebody who comes over here and embraces a more messianic form of practice and whatnot. He's a firm example of that, right? And again, you can try to sidestep the Billy Simons concept, but I said that I was going to show you people from East and West Africa speaking Arabic and Hebrew. And Omar ibn Said spoke Arabic and Hebrew, and he didn't learn from some Luso African or whatnot. And again, the source comes from the people he went to church with. The people he went to church with. So you can try to write it off, but again, a Jew that becomes a Muslim by default is messianic in some way, shape, or form because they believe Jesus is the Messiah. On another level, I said some would be bloodline and some would be converts just like other Jewish groups. He keeps saying convert. Now, see, I appreciate my man for not talking to me. He started talking to BHI and whatnot, right? He couldn't really deal with what I was talking about, because like if you look at the information objectively, you got to accept some people, right? Just like the scholars do, like Vince Banton. When they look at the information, he's, oh, I got to accept that some people would have come off the slave ship. Not maybe not a lot, but some, right? But he started talking to the BHI, and for the BHI, the word convert is oh my God, it's an evil, bad word. What did I say off rip? He talked to me. I said some people will be converts and some people wouldn't be, and that's not an issue for me in any way, shape, or form. That's how the nation of Israel works. I literally just said at the beginning of this whole thing, the nation of Israel in and of itself is a nation of converts. This is how this whole thing starts off. And it also has a mixed multitude aspect to it, right? And so just like any other Jewish group, to where, like I said earlier, where you're going to have certain people going in and mixing with other people and whatnot to different places and whatnot, and converting people and lineages continuing that way, you're gonna see how modern Jewish populations like the Ashkenazi or the Sephardi Jews or the Mizrahi Jews or the Ethiopian Jews or the Lemba, for instance, right? None of them have just one haplogroup. They have multiple haplogroups. So a bunch of them are going to be converts, and only just one of them, one lineage, is going to be part of the tribal concept, right? But they're all part of the nation. And so how the religion works is even descendants of converts get inheritance in the land. So again, there is no separation to convert and Israelite. This whole thing. Well, you're trying to you can't prove you go back to Jacob, but fam, we already agreed on that nobody can do that, and I'm not making that claim. And modern Jews aren't claiming they can prove they go back to Jacob. They're saying they can claim that they have oral. They go back to people who have oral traditions going back to Israelites, or people who practice Judaism or some form of Torah type religion or whatnot, and that they have genetics that goes back to the Levant somewhere. That's the best people can do at this juncture until you get a DNA sample from a patriarch. And so this whole convert, bro, you're talking to the wrong crowd, fam. You're talking to the wrong crowd. A convert is a national Israelite, and a descendant of a national Israelite gets the same as a descendant of a tribal Israelite in the nation. There is no above or below in that. There's one law for both. They get false dichotomy all day. Jewish slave traders did not make their slaves practice Christianity. Let's get that straight. Jewish slave traders did not give the Gullah Geechee people their tradition. And even your man's Raw Born cites people talking about the fact that the Gullah Geechee tradition is their own, it's something that they made. It's not something they got from anyone else. I'll gladly give you the sources whenever you want them, Garfield. Garfield did not go, again, in the DNA thing you just mentioned or whatnot, in terms of like the 3 to 5% of sub-Saharan African DNA being in Jewish populations. You didn't go back 72 generations like the paper said. You try to go back to the Babylonian captivity and all that kind of stuff, instead of going back to the founding event of the nation of Israel coming out of Egypt like a mixed multitude. That's what happens when you go back 72 generations. Yap gangs come on here and explain that paper before. This is the whole reason why Damon Richardson is like running, is because we cited that paper and we cited it properly. The founding event is why it's an important concept. And one of the things that Yap Gang argues is the concept of you definitely at that junction, you cannot rule out sub-Saharan African populations from being part of the mixed multitude. And again, that's part of the nation of Israel, fam. Again, this whole concept of being a bloodline Israelite, no one's making that argument. That's a straw man argument. Again, another fallacious argument. But something else I want to bring up right quick is this one bothered me, because he said something that I did not appreciate. The fallacy I can't stand the most, the one that gets a burr in my spine, is the special pleading fallacy. Applying standards, principles, and rules to other people or circumstances while making oneself or certain circumstances exempt from the same critical criteria without providing adequate justification. Special pleading is often a result of strong emotional beliefs that interfere with reason. So what am I talking about? I know Garfield does not appreciate it when people say we can't trust what Garfield says because he doesn't believe in the Bible. We shouldn't be listening to him. He doesn't believe in the Bible. I know he's not down with that. I know he considers that fallacious. So it's special pleading to then come back and say we can't trust anything Yap Gang has to say because they do believe in the Bible. That's 100% special pleading, and I can play around with a lot of the stuff that you do, but that's the one particular fallacy I can never have respect for. I'm going to apply standards to you that I'm not going to apply to myself. I can never respect that. But going forward, I'm going to run through this right quick. So this is the same source. This is the junkie source that we were talking about in terms of the B'nai Israel or whatnot, right? So again, it says down here, right? This was extended by Fodi al-Hassan to B'nai Israel, children of Israel. This was how the B'nai Israel and the bundle received its name, not their name, its name. It's talking about the place, not the people. It's talking about the place, not the people. And again, this is why this same source is so important, because he didn't go back to this part, nor did he address it for what I brought it up for. Again, it says where it says certain horticulture. Again, this is talking about the B'nai Israel or whatnot, right? The Tariq al-Fatash mentions a B'nai Israel in Messina. Again, this is in Mali, in connection with the Battle of Tenderma. Again, also in Mali, and gives the date therefore, right? Where it says certain horticultural traces of a flourishing Jewish colony called B'nai Israel were discovered. So again, he's yet to deal with this part. Let's say, okay, he doesn't like the name B'nai Israel. Okay, cool. It still says they're a flourishing Jewish colony. That's the whole point, bro. That's the whole point. So deal with the point. Are you going to accept the fact that there's some? Or are you going to reject that? Are you going to go with the whole none concept? Are you going to sound as crazy as the BHI who say all? Are you going to be that extreme? Are you going to be a cynic? Are you going to be a skeptic? I can respect the skeptic, but again, a cynic just is going to reject anything just because. So I would appreciate it if you actually deal with my sources for what I bring them up for. Again, going to the problem of the Judas Berbers, he did not address what I brought up in this source. I did not bring up Idrisi from this. I brought up Idrisi from a whole nother book about a whole nother concept. What did I address from this? This right here. I brought up Valentin Fernandez. I didn't bring up the other brother. I brought up Valentin Fernandez, not Idrisi, who says, again, that the Jews known as the Gold lived in the Western Sudan. Again, this is the Western Sahel, in the country of Jolofa, i.e. the Wolofs, and the Mandingo or Mandingo. They were black like other natives, etc., right? And I went through and I broke down the fact that there were other Jews, again, also in Futa. Again, this is a Fulani area, who had been living there since ancient times, according to Leo Africanus. The Africans at first adhered to Judaism, then to Christianity, and finally to Islam. So again, there's multiple things he's not addressing from this source. A, he's not addressing the fact that I brought up a Jewish population in amongst 3 different ethnic groups in West Africa, whom we know came over in hordes in the slave trade, and particularly in high numbers to the northern to North America and amongst the southeast coast where you get the Gullah Geechee from. They were the first wave and main base population of that slave class. So he's not addressing that in any way, shape, or form. Instead, he wanted to go address something I didn't even talk about. Please address my sources for what I'm talking about, Garfield. Please don't try to hoodwink the people like this, fam. They deserve better than this, fam. This ain't Sinaitis, fam. The second thing he didn't address, right, is again, these are people who were once Jews who then become Messianic. They become Christians and finally become Muslims. They still have some belief in Jesus. Whether you agree or disagree on the type of belief in Jesus, you can't reject the fact that they still retain some and he's still the Messiah and whatnot. So even as people as Jews, whether they stay Jews or not, okay, cool, they're Jews. They're practicing Judaism in some way, shape, or form. They convert to Christianity. These are Jewish people who are now Messianic. They believe Jesus is the Messiah. They convert to Islam. Okay, these are Jewish people who believe that Jesus is still the Messiah from an Islamic perspective. Please address that, bro. I would greatly appreciate. Like, you gave a great presentation and was going at the BHI and going, woo, you went at them super well. But please, don't waste my time. Deal with what I talked about. And again, this concept of Judeo-Arabic or the language being lost or whatnot. So again, you've heard me argue. Everyone's heard me argue about this concept of Judeo-Arabic being potentially on the pews, etc., whatnot. And this is something my man does. He refuses to acknowledge and does not want to acknowledge. And I know it's embarrassing, bro, because you brought this information out to the people. You brought this information out to the people. You brought out the documentary, The Cryptic Quest, where we have actual scholars talking about the concept of a shorthand version of the Tetragrammaton being written on the pews with 3 yods and whatnot, right? But here's what we also have, right? Since then, we've had other scholars talking about the fact that there's actual Arabic on the pews as well. And so beyond the Ge'ez, the Ha and Sa that they talk about in the same documentary that I'm talking that has Ephraim Isaac in it, where they talk about the Yahweh, etc. It has they talk about the Hebrew. Now we have people talking about the Arabic. Guess what we have on one pew, bruh? We got all 3 on one pew. So look at what that says right there. So this is a shahada where it does not have Muhammad's name in it. It just says La ilaha illallah. And before it, you read the opposite direction. You read from right to left. Before it, it says Yahweh, La ilaha illallah. You know that's consistent with 3 verses in the Quran that talk about the Arabic name for Yahweh, and they give a shahada to it. There's even a verse in the Quran, one verse in the Quran where Yahweh gets or the Arabic form of Yahweh gets a shahada to it alone. So this is very consistent with what I'm talking about. And if you want to keep demanding the pound on the table or whatnot for a case for like how'd you get what happened to your language, well, don't reject the information you brought out to the people. You came on this channel right here. You, sir, Garfield, came on this channel right here. I could pull the clip, and you said this documentary proves that we did not come over here illiterate. The documentary that you pointed out, they only said 2 languages, fam. They said Ge'ez and they said Hebrew. All right? And later on, we found out that Hebrew was some Arabic. All right? So that very well could be some Judeo-Arabic, if not just Hebrew by itself. So please don't discount your own sources, and please don't discount the stuff that I'm bringing up there. Deal with it for what it is. I'm not Pastor Kelly and them talking about this is sola trail whatnot. That's not what I'm saying here. So this shouldn't be dealt with in the same way. This is a very serious argument. This is a very and I'm not mad at the claim. Like you should be asking somebody, what did you preserve? What can you show me? But when I show you something, don't laugh at it, examine it. Why should I discount Ephraim Isaac talking about yods on the pews, fam? Particularly when you said what he had to talk about was proving that we came over literate. He wasn't talking about Arabic. There isn't a stitch of Arabic examined anywhere in that documentary. They examined Ge'ez, they examined Hebrew. Moving forward. Hold up. I'm gonna stop this and I'm gonna go to a whole nother one right quick. I'm gonna start sharing screen on the Moorish Zionist temple or whatnot. Give me just a quick second. Because this is a very important.
Is this over 10 minutes? That's over 15, 20 minutes, bro.
He said 20 minutes, and no, it ain't been that long.
I'm sorry, I just walked back in the door, bro. What happened now? What happened? Muck Runner walked away? All right, no, I want him to get the question in you. You scared of questions, Garfield?
I'm not. My time ain't finished yet.
All right, I didn't go to Family Dollar, man. I'm out here hungry. That's right, you church folk. I just called. They still in church. I heard the organ in the background playing. Go ahead. Dumas, how much time you got left?
Yeah, like 5 minutes or so.
All right, I'm even.
Hey, 5 minutes is all I need, bro. I don't even need that.
No, I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. But go ahead, go take the 5 and then I'll unmute my mic. Hopefully y'all don't hear me. I'm trying to cook right now. I'm trying to eat something up.
Hey, let me get a fish sandwich. You know what I'm saying?
That's all. I got a little 6-pack of this. I don't know what type of fish this is, but hey, Dollar General, whatever that store was, had it. I'm hungry.
Hey,
Go
we
ahead.
just, you know
Let me
what
hear this
I'm
right
saying?
there. Everybody, you got to be focused. Everybody depended on you more. I'm sick of Garfield myself.
No worries. So this is a very important one to bring up, right? So he was sitting there rapping to the BHI and talking about their whole tradition and whatnot. And it's very important to understand this tradition I'm talking about, because this is something that you hear Brian talk about in terms of like the first century Jews, etc. This is something that you hear me talk about on my channel. We got Brother Rue in the Yad gang who's actually studying to be a rabbi in this particular tradition of the Romani Judaism, right? And so this is a particular form of Judaism that needs to be understood. And the history of the Moorish Zionist temple needs to be understood. This is not the Moorish Science Temple. Don't get it confused. That's Noble Drew Ali. That's something completely different, right? This is again the first African Jewish congregation in America, right? It started in 1899 and went to 1929, right? And they were a blend of a multitude of different people from Africa and Arabia at that, and the Caribbean. Again, this is the Moorish Jews were the first congregation of African Jewry in America. It needs to be understood. So shout out to Rob Bourne, because this is from his presentation and whatnot, right? He got this from the Schomburg in New York and whatnot. I got some information on them and whatnot. So this is what it says: the first Negro Jewish congregation in the United States was founded in 1899 by Rabbi Leon Richelieu. He claimed to have been born in Ethiopia. You'll see what I cite other sources that say Egypt and whatnot. And at the time, it's important to understand that the concept of Ethiopia was being applied to all of Africa and whatnot. So that can get confusing when you're reading older literature sometimes. But it goes on to say Richelieu's temple was known as the Moor Zionist Temple. The members of this congregation were both Negro and white. Okay, both Negro and white. Richelieu received his ordination from 3 recognized rabbis in the United States. He was a real rabbi. He wasn't somebody just starting up his own thing or whatnot. Although he never applied for membership in the New York Board of Rabbis. The most interesting part of Richelieu's story, both Arnold Ford and Wentworth Matthew were members of his congregation. When they approached him and asked to become rabbis, he turned them down. One more time. Both Arnold Ford and Wentworth Matthew were members of his congregation. When they approached him and asked to become rabbis, because he was a proper rabbi that was made a rabbi by 3 other ones and whatnot, right? He turned them down. He said that neither was fit to be a rabbi. So the people who are the basis of this BHI movement in America that you're talking about, they first sought to get recognized here, but they were rejected. This was a congregation that wasn't racist, that was not talking about Esau's the white man, none of that type of stuff. And they said, nah, you can't be rabbis here. You're not fit for the position. And then they left and started their own thing. So it needs to be understood, 2 different traditions. 2 different traditions. The BHI one and this tradition. And this is a legit one. Going further, this is the Black Jews of Harlem Representation, Identity, and Race, 1920 through 1939, by Roberta S. Gold, University of Washington. This is what it has to say. Like this has to talk about all the Black Jewish groups at the time and whatnot, right? But in page 183, it says this: in 1925, Jewish Daily Forward interviews Professor Richelieu, who helped lead a Harlem synagogue of 200 members, spoke earnestly of the fidelity his community felt toward religious observance and learning. We have spent priceless hours studying Baba Kama, Baba Batra. We are familiar with the writings of Rashi and the Rambam. I.e., they're very, very eclectic, very eclectic. We observe every Jewish holiday in every possible way. We try to live a truly Jewish life. An African journal report. Oh, well, that's not important to this. But they're ordaining their own rabbis. That is important to show, right? So the shows here that they're ordaining their own rabbis, but they rejected other people because they didn't fit the bill. Going further, the Moorish Zionist Professor Richelieu traced much of his congregation to Eastern countries. There are a number of Yemen Jews, Moroccan Jews, Egyptian Jews, Abyssinian Jews, about 200 told. Richelieu was born in Cairo, Egypt. Rabbi Herman's camp comes from Morocco. So this was an eclectic African and Arabian collection of Jews and whatnot, right? Very eclectic. So you had North African, East African. You'll even find that they had Caribbean Jews amongst them. going forward. This is important. Moreover, they accept Jesus. Some of the people accept him as one of the prophets of the ranks of Moses. Others of them, it seems, accept him as divine. The Moorish Zionist Rabbi Herman, again, this is a very famous rabbi. Mordecai Herman is literally on a mural in Jerusalem. Moorish Zionist Rabbi Herman was forthright about this wide embrace. He described the movement as non-denominational and not conform to the elaborate rituals and observances of Orthodox Jewry. One can be a Baptist and enjoy pork chops instead of kosher steaks if he chooses. The teacher said unity, brotherliness, aid for the needy, education in the Jewish language, and economic practices were declared the keynotes of the movement. So again, this is extremely important to understand. This is a type of Judaism that was very much so like the first century form of Judaism. They kind of like these, the rabbinic Judaism you would have seen someone like a Nicodemus accept, right? And the concept where the church, the first century church is you have Jews and Gentiles or whatnot, right? Yeah. So the concept of you're going to have people not eating pork and people eating pork at the same time being part of the same congregation, it shouldn't be an unheard of concept, but it should be understood. That's the kind of concept that was the first African Jewish congregation that was in this country, is that it accepted all of that, right? And it rejected the BHI concept. And again, what they wanted to unify on was unity, brotherliness, aid for the needy, education in the Jewish language, and economic practices. Nothing about Esau's the white man. Nothing about wanting to take down the nation. Nothing about the nation's going to fall. Nothing about we're the chosen people and everybody got a service. No, they were talking about self-determination in a very positive way. How much time I got left doing this? Because we can stop it there if we need to.
Yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
All right, Brent. Garfield.
That was 28 minutes, bro.
Oh,
28 minutes. All right. All of that ain't proved that nobody got off no ship. But
hold on,
we're gonna have a conversation because this is crazy.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm gonna finish this call. Go ahead.
All right.
So he wanted me to ask you questions first, right? So
No. I gotta respond to you, bro. I gotta respond.
Who's gonna respond to Garfield?
He just responded.
People
I gotta
mad at you, Garfield. People done with you, Garfield.
No, Berrien, I gotta respond to what he just said. He said
it's not an official debate. This is just a dialogue.
Bro, I gotta respond to what he
Go ahead, cry, baby. Enjoy your life.
Yeah, give him his time. Give him his time.
He was incorrect on almost everything. Now, I wait for the question and answer to ask you about Omar Ibn Said, by the way. I'll wait for that. But you just said something. Share my screen real quick, bro. Let me just deal with this Billy Simon's craziness real quickly. Let me deal with this right here. All right. Now, this is Billy Simons right here from the Carolog Spring, right? Now, watch this. It says, another Jew from Africa was Billy Simons, a black slave. According to Simmons, who was owned by the editor of the Charleston Daily Courier, he was born in Madagascar, lived in the Barbary States. What is the Barbary States? I thought that was North Africa. Maybe I don't know what the Barbary States is. Maybe I'm stupid. Maybe I'm dumb. But I'm trying to figure out, why would I make up he comes from the North Africa? He lived in the Barbary State. That's where he came from to go to North Carolina, to go to South Carolina. That's where they got him from. So what is, I don't know. I couldn't figure out that one right here. I couldn't figure that out. The Moorish Zion Temple, Old Testament, New Testament, fine. Has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with the topic of the slaves came off the slave ship and practiced their religion. But if you want to say, hey, I got you on that, fine, you could have that. It don't prove your point. The pews. Let me bring up this source about the pews. Let me bring up Saracen and his professional opinion, who was there when the project was going on. I don't even know why you would say, I know, and by the way, let's look at this. Hold on one second.
I don't even see no screen. I don't know what's going on.
Hold on, Barry. Hold on one second. This is, put that on the screen, please.
Oh boy.
He just said that there is no God but Allah, right? Yahweh, Hassa, Christian from the Geese, right? He says potentially. So if you're arguing about potentially, don't talk like it's a definite, because now you sound like you're crazy right now. You sound crazy. Now look at this right now. Let me show on my screen. This is a email from Richard Saracen, who is on the video, right? Now look at this right here. Are you guys sharing me on the screen? Hold on.
It ain't no screen up that I see.
All right, there you go. You got it up?
Yeah.
All right, so this is an email from Richard Saracen, as you can see at the bottom. He's the guy in the video originally. He said, my memory of your email was jogged just now when my wife and I were watching PBS's documentary series, The Black Church. This is our story. This is our song on PBS streaming. We missed the live airing last month, which includes a brief segment on the First African Baptist Church. There, one of Henry Louis Gates Jr.'s informants, unidentified, indicate that the glyphs on the pews are Arabic and attest to African Muslim heritage of some of the congregants. That is certainly likely with respect to the background and intent of those who carved these glyphs into the pews. But once again, I do not believe that they are discernible and decipherable Arabic words here. Let me go back to further up. Okay, here we go. They are not Hebrew, though some individual markings are similar to the formation of some Hebrew letters. So this is his professional opinion. He's saying that they are not Hebrew, but they are similar to some of the letters. There are no Hebrew word discernible there, but obviously you're going to say potential. Even if you look at Abu's video the other day, Abu talks about it, that there's, you could bring a little Arabic meaning or understand Arabic, whatever. But to say that the Hebrew, the yah, the wah, the dal, if you turn it upside down, you'll see it. The slaves ain't worried about no upside down Hebrew, like in the yard. And that is just absolutely crazy. You see, that's why it's a logical fallacy to say that because you believe I can't trust you. I can't trust you guys in this community who are black and claim to be Israelite. I don't. Because your first thing is it has to be Hebrew. It has to be. So this is showing a bias. No scholar is saying that except probably, I don't even know if anybody scholarly is saying that. They're saying it's Arabic. Then all of a sudden the website changes. Oh, it's Hebrew. Then it's not Hebrew. It's West African this. It's West African. Listen, family, there's no Hebrew on that text. And if it's Hebrew, read the Hebrew and what it means. No slave come on, man. This is just ridiculous at this point with these pews. It's ridiculous. I'm going to read this part again. There is no question in my mind that the carvings on the pews are intentional or meant to be a kind of script. They are not Hebrew, though some individual markings are similar to the formation of some Hebrew letters. There are no Hebrew words discernible there. Some of the markings bear some similarity to the Arabic script, but here too I can't find anything consistent, though I'm not fluent in Arabic. Still, Arabic is written entirely horizontally, and all of the letters in single words are conjoined. I did not find that consistently in the pew. So these Africans that came over, who more than likely are familiar with Arabic, are writing Arabic, but they just switch and say, hey, we're going to write this part right here in Hebrew. This is what you want us to believe. I don't trust it. I don't trust it. I don't trust the opinions on it. I don't trust it at all. Again, it makes money for the church to say it's Hebrew, and that's all it's doing. Basically, the brother is making an argument of conversion and said, but they're part of the nation, brother. My original argument has always been a lineal argument, a lineal descent argument from the Israels. That's always been my argument. Now you're coming with this whole conversion argument, which is crazy because I never made an argument regarding conversion because I already say anyone can be a convert. But again, you brought up Billy Simons, North Africa. I just show that. You brought up the pews. I just show that. The Judahite Berbers, that's irrelevant because that don't determine if people came off the slave ship. The argument from the jump is that do we have evidence of anyone who comes off the slave ship practicing Hebraic culture, who is claiming to be a Hebrew, an Israelite, or a Jew? That's the first argument. The second argument is the cultural argument. Do we see a culture of Hebraic culture coming off the slave ship? We don't. There's no evidence. With Billy Simons, I will say there's a question sign behind Billy Simons because nobody's claiming to be a Rechabite except people who come from countries that are run by Arabs. And Rechabites, that's a whole nother conversation altogether. That don't fall into the category. But with him, we don't know. And I'll say, I don't know. I'll say like what the scholar said. We really don't know. You can't track exactly what it is. We're just going by what he said. Let me see what else. What else did he touch on? And another argument he said that the people, if they converted, that they are part of the nation. I don't disagree with that, but if the folks converted in Africa and went on the slave ships, let me use Fortune's argument. What did they have? Did they have divine amnesia and forget that they practice Hebrew culture? There's 12 million people leave Africa. 10 million got over here, not over here per se, but over in the Caribbean, in South and Central America and North America. And nobody's practicing this culture. Nobody's speaking in a language that's connected to the Hebrew language. Nobody's doing none of that. It's not their culture. As far as the DNA now, and this is funny, because now you're crying and saying, hey, I didn't show that the 72 generation. So let me go back to the article, to the it's not the article, it's actually a summary on Wikipedia. Let's go back to the Wikipedia article for a second. And let's look at what you're saying. Because even if I'm incorrect on that, because I was making a point that you're saying that they entered during that time period. I mean, I don't believe that the Israelites were in Egypt. I don't believe that. I think the Israelites stemmed from Canaanites, which is what academia says. I don't believe that the interaction at the point. I think the Nubians at the time period, which is around the 8th century, which makes a lot more sense. That's my opinion. That's the conclusion that was drawn also. Hold on, let me get this made in America. Let's get this right here. Let me get this summary right here. And Damon Richardson I'm actually agreeing with Damon Richardson on this point, to be honest.
Yeah, we ain't not surprised.
Hold on 1 second. Why is it I don't see this article here? Hold on, the language genetics. Where is it at? Hold on 1 second here. So why is it I don't see it? Okay, here we go. Genetics. All right. All right. So this is the actual Wikipedia summary from a larger he spoke about the 72 generations going back. I think you're talking about right here. But as it says here, a parsimonious explanation for these observations is that they reflect a history in which many of the Jewish group descend from a common ancestral population, which was itself admixed with Africans, most likely ancient Egyptians, prior to the beginning of the Jewish diaspora.
Ain't that what the Bible says?
That occurred in 8th to 6th century BC. Hold on. Prior to the beginning of the Jewish diaspora that occurred in 8th to 6th century BC. What are you talking about? The article that you're talking about, no, it's actually not that one. It's actually this one. The Gene tells tale of Jewish ties. But even if we look at this one right here, the population of genetics, that's from 2013. This is the article which summarized the actual article. Right here. It was this article. I remember me and James Cassell went back on this for months upon months. We used to argue about this article. I'm going to say this. The 72 generations is right here. See? The exchange of genes between Jews and sub-Saharan Africans occurred approximately 72 generations around. This is saying around 2,000 years ago. That's what this article is saying. So what are you saying? That's not going back to when Egypt, brother. That 72 generations wouldn't reach that far. So you're not even right about this part.
We can pull up the article, bro.
It's not. You're not even right about that part. Oh man, that's sad. That is so sad. You're not even right about that part. But let me do this. Let me go back to this. And this don't determine what I am saying is that with the 3 to 5% sub-Saharan African, the argument is that they came out of Egypt as a mixed multitude. That is the argument. I am saying that during the time, prior to the beginning of the Jewish diaspora that occurred in 8th to 6th century BC, the authors conclude So if it's prior to when the Jewish diaspora that occurred between 8th to 6th century BC, that is not when they came out of Egypt, though. All right, don't talk. Let me finish my presentation. Don't talk. You get the chance to ask all your questions when you get the chance to talk. I am saying that this has nothing to do. The article has nothing to do with that time period as far as then. You know, they did give a wide range from 1600 to 3400 during the 4th century BC, but they actually zeroed it in to around the 8th to 6th century, which is right here. It is intriguing that the Mizrahi and Iran and Iraqi Jews who are thought to descend.
Not what it said before. Like you said, there was a range there, wasn't it? What was it?
Why are you interrupting me?
Oh, my apologies.
Okay. It is intriguing. It's because you said 72 generation. The 72 generation is 2000. Now, if an admixture happened with Africans, I'm saying this is what I feel based on the article and what I've read. I've read it over the years. I actually have the original article somewhere around here. But my issue is this: if the Israelites, right, are the Jews at the time, have an interaction with Egyptians, it could happen in the 1400 BC. I don't really have a problem with that, because Africans were in the Levant, so I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, cool. If you don't have a problem,
I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with that. But what I will say.
So can we talk about the actual sources I brought up then?
I never interrupted you one time, bro. I
Yeah,
made
you did.
you rock out, bro.
Okay.
I made you rock out, bro. All of a sudden you're coming off mic. Everything you said, I refuted except the Omar ibn Said. Omar ibn Said, I'm gonna ask you that during the question and answer. You said that Billy Simons never had nothing about Madagascar is not North Africa. There you go, coming off mic again. Oh man. This is not like Moore at all, bro. This is not like Moore at all. You brought up the Moorish Zion Temple about Old Testament, New Testament. Fine. I agree. I agree. You might be right with that, but that doesn't determine if slaves came off the slave ship practicing this religion. It doesn't determine that. That argument is irrelevant. That argument is totally irrelevant in this conclusion. The Pew's argument now, that's a better argument, but again, it's inconclusive. You can't say definite one way or the other. I brought it to the community, fine. And I brought the information, but basically they had a whole project about it that had nothing to do with me, Henry Louis Gates, and then most people are leaning towards an Arabic source. I remember what's his name? Faithful and Abu did a whole presentation showing the Arabic experts and saying what they said based on emails that they sent to them, based on Brown and all that stuff. You see, we're in a motion where we're saying, oh, it has to be Hebrew one day, but it's nothing that you can discern and say, hey, you know what? This is actually Hebrew and these are the words. It's all possibilities or probabilities. You can't say nothing conclusive. Why bring it up? There's nothing conclusive about the Pews. You have one side saying one thing, you have another side saying thing. Even Zion Lex came on my channel and I had a conversation with you, which you put on your channel. He's this whole Hebrew expert. He said it's no way. Zion Lex said it's no way if people want to take him as an expert in Hebrew, that it's Hebrew on the Pews. But I just feel at the end of the day, what are we fighting for? Billy Simons, again, another I don't know possible argument. And then you have the Pews, another possible argument. The Omar ibn Said, I'll ask you that. But you haven't presented anything to make a case of people coming over here with a Hebraic culture. You haven't. You show the Gullah, but you don't give any reasons why we should say, oh, okay, it's a Hebraic culture because of the tithing. Come on, you don't know what they're doing. And I'm guaranteed there'll be a source that disagree with you about that. All I'm saying is the people came off the boats. Some of them ran away. They were Maroons. You have in Brazil over 5,000 Maroon communities. The 5,000 Maroon communities, not one of those people are recorded saying anything Hebraic, nothing as far as Jewish. That is major. You go in Jamaica, you see the Maroons run off. They're talking about Enyame and practicing their religion, capturing the pig, the origin of jerk pork in Jamaica. I'm about to get some jerk chicken right now through Uber Eats, by the way, too. And see that I'm about to do that in honor of the Maroons who invented jerk pork, showing they're not part of this religion of Jews or whatever. They call on Enyame, the god. They name their people's Kojo, which is Kwadwo, which is, I think, the Monday, first day of the week or Tuesday, whatever it is. I mean, they're not practicing the culture, bro. You see the book that Raw Ball used, Caribbean Religions. It documents these people coming off the boats. So again, you have not shown something that's unambiguous to say, hey, you know what? This is proof that these group of people came over with this. Oh, the people trading, and they may have practiced a religion, or they may have, but they had divine amnesia, as Fortune 93 would have said. They had divine amnesia coming off the slave ships. Why are we playing this game to make a point? And then I'm arguing lineal, and you're arguing conversion. You're not even arguing what I'm claiming. So you off the jump, you wrong, because I'm claiming a lineal descent. You're claiming that, okay, some people could have converted and Africans could have been there or whatever. Nah, that's not what I'm arguing. But the truth of the matter is, this is why you can't show a linguistic connection when I said Judeo-African or Judean-Guyanese or Judeo-American or whatever. You can't show them speaking that language because they can't be from the lineal people. So instead, you want to use the Bnei Israel people, which is just ludicrous, because if you want to believe that tradition about a dream or whatever, that's fine. That's on you. I don't believe it. I think it's nonsense. But at the end of
the you ready for them questions?
I got. And I'm
talking about from more specifically.
Yeah. That's fine.
Come on, more. All right, Golf and that. All right. Well, he's gonna have to keep his mouth open to respond. But go ahead for more.